Margaret was only 23 years old when she found out she was going to be a mother. The news brought mixed emotions: joy at carrying a new life and fear of an uncertain future. However, what she didn't expect was that Brooke's father would abandon everything upon learning of the pregnancy. He fled, unable to take responsibility, leaving Margaret alone to face what lay ahead. Faced with abandonment, Margaret didn't hesitate. She decided she would do whatever it took, even if it meant confronting the impossible, to ensure her daughter had a dignified life filled with love and protection. From that moment on, her mission was clear. Brooke would be her priority, her reason to keep going. Margaret's days were marked by a relentless routine. She worked 2 jobs, barely had time to rest, and lived with a head full of worries. But to Brooke, she was a fortress. Even exhausted, Margaret never let the hardships show. Her smile was a shield, her voice carried words of love, and her hugs provided the security her daughter needed. Brooke grew up surrounded by love. Margaret made it a point to teach values that would shape her personality: respect, resilience, and the importance of never giving up, even in the face of adversity. These lessons were the greatest legacy she could offer her daughter. Margaret, however, sacrificed much of herself. There was no time for relationships, personal dreams, or moments of rest. While others her age sought adventure or stability, Margaret dedicated herself entirely to ensuring Brooke's future was brighter. For her, her daughter's happiness was the greatest gift she could receive. Even amidst loneliness and hardship, Margaret found strength in the unconditional love she felt for Brooke. It was this love that guided her decisions, gave her days meaning, and kept her strong, even when the world seemed to crumble around her. The years passed quickly, and Brooke, now 20, was beginning to carve out her own future. She worked a simple job but dreamed of something greater. Watching her grow, Margaret felt a mix of pride and relief. Brooke was building her independence, and to Margaret, that meant her sacrifices had not been in vain. At the same time, however, a silent burden began to weigh on Margaret's heart. Her health, which had always seemed to withstand the challenges of her hard life, began to show signs of wear. At first, it was mild aches she dismissed as fatigue. Then the symptoms intensified, but Margaret continued pretending nothing was wrong. She told herself she didn't have time to worry about it. Brooke needed her, and life demanded she stay strong. But after months of pushing the pain to the back of her mind, Margaret could no longer ignore the signs. She went to see a doctor, still hoping it was something minor, but left the office with the worst news imaginable: a terminal illness with no cure. The diagnosis was devastating. In that moment, the world seemed to stop. Margaret thought about everything she still wanted to experience, everything she dreamed of for Brooke. But above all, fear consumed her. What would happen to her daughter without her? Brooke was just starting her life, and Margaret didn't want her to face the weight of her absence so soon. Despite the shock, Margaret made a decision only a mother could make. She would keep the secret. She didn't want Brooke to worry or bear that pain before it was necessary. She preferred to use the time she had left for something more important: preparing her daughter for life. Margaret knew her time was limited, but she decided to turn it into an opportunity to care for Brooke in a different way. Though the physical and emotional pain was intense, she began quietly planning every detail, shouldering the burden alone. Her love for Brooke kept her standing even when it seemed impossible. Aware that her days were numbered, Margaret made a decision she had been contemplating in silence. If she couldn't physically be there to guide Brooke through life's toughest moments, she would leave her words as a guiding light. On silent nights, when the house was steeped in darkness and the pain felt most intense, Margaret began to write. With a pen in hand and a heavy heart, she transformed every tear into words of love and wisdom. Each letter was carefully crafted, a life manual for Brooke. Margaret wanted her daughter to have answers to the questions that would inevitably arise. She wrote about how to fight for a better future at work, how to recognize the right opportunities, and how to be fearless in taking risks. She dedicated an entire letter to relationships, teaching Brooke how to recognize a man worthy of her love, someone who would respect and cherish her. But the letters weren't just about practical advice. Margaret also wrote about faith, resilience, and the values that had always united them. She emphasized the importance of honesty, compassion, and courage, even in life's darkest moments. Each line carried the weight of a lifetime of lessons, and every word reflected the unconditional love she felt for her daughter. In the final letter, Margaret left her most important message: She thanked Brooke for every moment they had shared, for being the light that brightened her days and the reason for her strength. She promised that even in her absence she would be there in spirit, guiding her and cheering her on. It was a goodbye and, at the same time, a promise that their love would never fade. Margaret passed away on a calm morning, as the sun gently illuminated the home that meant so much to both of them. The void she left was immense, but it was also filled with a legacy of love and wisdom that would forever serve as the foundation of Brooke's life. Shortly after Margaret's passing, Brooke found a carefully stored box in one of the house's cabinets. Inside were the letters her mother had written. Opening the first one, Brooke felt as if Margaret were right there with her again. The words overflowed with love, wisdom, and strength. Each line seemed infused with her mother's spirit, offering comfort in the midst of the devastating pain of loss. Through tears, Brooke read the letters one by one. Margaret had thought of everything: advice for difficult moments, lessons on living with dignity, and even words of encouragement for dreams Brooke hadn't yet realized. It was while reading about Margaret's dream of seeing her graduate from medical school that Brooke felt an irresistible calling. Sitting on her bedroom floor with the letters scattered around her, Brooke made a promise. No matter how difficult it might be, she would fulfill her mother's greatest wish. She would become a doctor and dedicate her life to helping others, honoring Margaret's love and teachings. The journey that followed was grueling. Brooke continued working her job, now better paying due to her talent and dedication, saving every penny by cutting out all non-essential expenses. Parties, trips, and leisure moments were replaced with hours of intense studying. The nights were lonely and the longing for Margaret often felt unbearable. But whenever she thought about giving up, Brooke would pick up one of the letters. Her mother's voice echoed through them, reminding her of her strength and how much Margaret believed in her. Every achievement, no matter how small, was dedicated to the memory of the woman who had given her everything. After years of effort, the day finally came when Brooke received life-changing news. She had been accepted into medical school. The emotion was indescribable. Margaret's dream was becoming a reality, and Brooke knew her mother would be proud. With tears in her eyes and a smile on her face, Brooke held the acceptance letter and looked to the sky. Each victory was more than just a step in her career. It was a tribute to her mother's immense love, which continued to guide her even in her absence. Margaret had passed on, but her legacy lived in every choice, every accomplishment, and in Brooke's determined heart. Years had passed and Brooke was now a respected doctor, devoted to saving lives and fulfilling her mother's legacy. Her days were intense, but she found fulfillment in every patient she treated and every family she comforted. It was on one of these ordinary days that the past unexpectedly knocked on her door. At the end of a shift, Brooke was informed that someone was waiting for her in the reception area. When she arrived, she saw an older man with a weathered appearance and eyes that seemed to carry decades of regret. He held an old, worn photograph of Margaret. It was her biological father. Brooke's heart raced. For years, he had been nothing more than an absence in her life, a faceless figure she associated with the pain of abandonment. Now he was standing there in the flesh, holding a piece of her history she barely knew. With a trembling voice, he began to speak. He admitted his past mistakes, his immaturity, and the fear that had driven him to run when he learned of the pregnancy. He said he had never been able to forget Margaret or the daughter he left behind. The photo he carried was the only connection he had to them, a constant reminder of what he had lost. Brooke felt a flood of emotions: anger, sadness, surprise, and, unexpectedly, compassion. She recalled her mother's lessons, which always emphasized the importance of forgiveness and letting go of unnecessary burdens. Forgiving wasn't a gift to the one who had erred but a relief for the one choosing to move forward. They spoke for a long time that afternoon. Brooke listened to the man who had once abandoned her but now sought redemption. For the first time, it felt like that unfinished chapter of her life was finding closure. In the end, Brooke did what Margaret would have done: she chose to forgive him. It wasn't easy, but it was necessary. Forgiveness freed her from the weight of the past, allowing her to move forward with greater peace. While the future of her relationship with her father remained uncertain, Brooke knew that reconciliation was a personal victory. She had turned yet another wound into a lesson, once again honoring the values her mother had instilled in her. After all, love and compassion were the most powerful legacies Margaret had left behind. The promise Brooke made to her mother not only transformed her life but also impacted the lives of thousands of others. Years of dedication and effort had led her to become a renowned doctor, known not only for her technical expertise but also for her empathy and care for her patients. However, Brooke knew she could do more. Inspired by Margaret's lessons and memory, she decided to establish an organization dedicated to helping children with serious illnesses and their families. She wanted to provide support to those facing the same challenges that she and Margaret had faced alone. This led to the creation of her greatest achievement, a foundation that became a beacon of hope for those in need. As part of the project, Brooke created a special space called Margaret's Garden. It was a sanctuary for families in need of comfort and strength. Surrounded by nature, people found a peaceful environment where they could reconnect with hope and faith in better days. For Brooke, this was the perfect tribute to the mother who had always strived to create a safe haven for her. As time went on, the foundation grew, reaching thousands of people and becoming a symbol of love and resilience. Through this work, Brooke felt that Margaret's presence remained alive, spreading compassion and inspiration. Amid this journey of accomplishment, Brooke also found true love, just as Margaret had described in her letters. Her husband was a man of integrity, kindness, and shared the same values that Brooke held close to her heart. Together they built a life full of love and partnership, raising two healthy and happy children. Brooke dedicated her life to passing on the lessons she had learned from Margaret. She taught her children the importance of resilience, unconditional love, and respect for others. Through her actions, she demonstrated that even the greatest pains could be transformed into a greater purpose. Margaret's legacy was more than just memories. It was present in every smile from the families supported by the foundation, in every patient cared for with dedication, and in the love that bonded Brooke to her own family. In this way, Margaret continued to live on, not only in her daughter's heart but also in every life Brooke touched. As the years passed, Brooke decided to share her story with the world. She wrote a book narrating her journey, the unconditional love of her mother, and the lessons that had transformed her life. The book became a beacon for people in despair, showing that it is possible to overcome pain and turn suffering into purpose. Margaret, though physically absent, remained present in every decision, in every victory Brooke achieved. Her eternal love not only shaped her daughter's life but also created an impact that transcended generations. In the end, Margaret lived to love and care for Brooke, and Brooke lived to honor her mother and carry her legacy forward.